Yeah, I know, just calm down. I know that this type of idea, after you read the title, you read the thumbnail, you're like, hey, I'm an Oilers fan, and I'm pissed off about that. And I know on the other side, it's, hey, I'm a Flames fan, and I'm pissed off about that. This is not me. This is not me. I'm going out there and reading an article that had this idea attached to it that I thought was interesting enough to make a video about it, and thus we're going out there and talking about it on the YouTube channel. I mean, it is kind of me because I'm sort of, in a way, validating this type of content and giving it a platform, but at the end of the day, this was an interesting enough idea that I wanted to explore in a hypothetical trade situation between the Oilers and the Flames. Two teams that hate each other, two teams that, honestly, they swap players a lot more than I would think they would. The most recent example, in my mind, being the James Neal-Milan Lucic thing, that was kind of beneficial to one party, not so much for the other. I mean, the Flames became pretty good. The Oilers didn't really benefit all too much from James Neal and his services now, didn't they? But at the end of the day, this is another trade idea revolving a name that we've talked about on the channel before. We're revisiting Jesse Puljujarvi and the conversation surrounding him, because, as it turns out, the entire conversation about the Oilers trying to shop this guy, hey, guess what? It appears that there might be a little bit more layers to it than just the Jake Virtanen thing that we highlighted all those videos ago. Now, if you need a little bit of a refresher, we had ourselves what was a Twitter thread made by Ryan Rishaug the other day talking about how the Oilers were trying to go after Jake Virtanen on a PTO. We have since had news that Virtanen apparently does not want to go over to Edmonton, and that the Oilers are now out of the Jake Virtanen sweepstakes. My goodness, I need to rub some soap on my tongue. I can't believe I just said that sentence. But we did have ourselves that same tweet in the thread by Ryan Rishaug saying that the Oilers are continuing to pursue all trade options for Jesse Puljujarvi. Why? Because he's making $3 million a season. Screw the fact that he went out there and he actually had a pretty good, productive year in last season's worth of NHL play, getting... How many points did he have? I don't have the Elite Prospects page of him pulled up right now. Let's go ahead and do that because, yeah, I'm a bad YouTuber right here. Puljujarvi had 36 points in 65 games played last season. He disappeared in the playoffs, but he still has had a very good statistical profile when it comes to the advanced analytics, the opportunities for the team when he is on the ice versus when he is off the ice. All the players on the Oilers, the McDavids of the world, the Dreisaitl's, the Nugent Hopkins, they all play better, and they have better advanced analytics as well when Puljujarvi is playing with them versus when he is not. Either way, the Oilers have themselves a pretty good top 5, and I guess you could say a top 6 if you wanted to throw Yamamoto in there, with the Hymans, the Canes, the McDavids, the Dreisaitls, and the Nuges as well. For Puljujarvi, with this cost-cutting move in mind, there is an idea or two that says that he might get traded. Which is why we have this article published on September 12th, 2022 by Colton Pankew on NHLTradeTalk.com. Here are the top 4 trade destinations for the Oilers forward Jesse Puljujarvi. The article starts out by mentioning the Ryan Rishaug Twitter thread and how it all started again with a tweet on Monday afternoon suggesting that Puljujarvi remains on the trade block. Rishaug also said that the move would be made to open up cap space, meaning that there may not be a lineup replacement coming back. With that being said, here are 4 destinations that may make some sense for the 24-year-old forward. Now, Pankew goes out there and writes about the San Jose Sharks. There are a few paragraphs going over that. There is the Minnesota Wild that is mentioned over here, and then there are the Carolina Hurricanes. But what I wanted to focus on was the last trade idea that was put in this article. Pankew writes that the Calgary Flames could be a potential suitor for Jesse Puljujarvi. Now, before you go out there and immediately judge the idea, just for my little inklings, my little surfing around Calgary Flames related social media discourse, it does appear to me that this team could be in need of a right wing player. And guess what position Jesse Puljujarvi plays? He plays the right wing. Divisional trades rarely happen in the NHL, especially between two teams with as fierce a rivalry as the Oilers and the Flames, but that does not mean they are impossible. Flames GM Brad Treliving has been in the market for a winger, and had considered both Phil Kessel and Evan Rodriguez when they were free agents. Perhaps Puljujarvi could turn out to be the final piece of this puzzle. With just over $2 million in cap space, the Flames would not be able to take on Puljujarvi's deal without sending something back. Interestingly enough, they currently have 10 defensemen on one-way contracts and are looking to move at least one before training camp. One name that has been rumored to be on the block is Oliver Kylington. Now, this is a player that has a pretty unique sort of reputation amongst the fan base. Kylington, to me, is a legitimately good hockey player, but as we will go out there and explore, there are some reasons why you could say he might be more tradable than others. He's 25 years old, 6 feet, 183 as a left-handed guy, making $2.5 million a season till the end of 2024. He was drafted by the Flames back in 2015, and he only made his full-time NHL debut this year. He had had some seasons in the past, but he hadn't played over 70 games in an NHL campaign until now. He had 31 points in that stint, 9 goals, 22 assists, and he was playing with Chris Tanev on a pairing that was really, really good. Now, you could say, hey, he's playing with Tanev, so that automatically gives him a much more free rein when it comes to being able to produce offense and do what it is that Kylington was doing very well in the AHL. And of course, playing with a player as defensively responsible as Chris Tanev is definitely will help, but after battling through all the injuries and finally working his way up the roster, Oliver Kylington is here to stay. At least, that's what would appear if you look at the contract. But you do have yourselves a few Flames fans going out there saying, hey, I mean, he is pretty good, he's pretty underrated, he's relatively new in the league. If there is some sort of a trade that the Calgary Flames can explore involving Kylington that could get the team a legitimately valuable forward, I wouldn't necessarily say no. I've seen that sentiment going amongst the Flames fan base quite a lot. However, there has also been the opposing idea saying, hey, no, this guy's pretty underrated. Like, he actually was a solid defenseman for our team, especially playing with Tanev. I mean, he had 30 points, too. Like, what $2.5 million AAV defenseman for the next 2 seasons goes out there and gets 30 points? Not too many of them go out there and do that. So Oliver Kylington right here, what a great player, especially at 25 years old. This is what the NHL Trade Talk article says. Kylington, 25, is coming off a career season in which he put up 31 points in 73 games. As a result of his play, he was recently rewarded with a 2-year, $5 million extension that carries out an AAV of 2.5. While swapping Puljujarvi for Kylington wouldn't create a ton of cap space for the Oilers, it would help slightly. And, even more important, it would give the Oilers a reliable left-hand shot D-man on what is somewhat of an underwhelming blue line at this time. Though the Oilers recently did sign Ryan Murray to a 1-year contract, their left side could still use some improvement. Philip Broberg is believed to be playing the right side for 22-23, leaving just Darnell Nurse, Brett Kulak, and Murray as the only roster locks on the left. After that, there will be a competition between guys such as Slater Koekkoek, Dmitry Samarukov, and Markus Niemelainen, none of whom are as good as a player like Oliver Kylington. It doesn't seem all that likely to happen, but a Puljujarvi for Kylington swap could make sense for both sides. Now I know, this is tough. Calgary fans, Edmonton fans, I know you don't like each other too much, but what I wanted to conduct in this video's comment section was just a short little discussion as to whether or not a trade idea like this one would actually work out. If the Flames are looking for more offense, they're looking for more forwards, especially right-wing players, a guy like Puljujarvi fills that need. If you're looking for more left-handed defense and stability on the left side, if you're an Oilers fan, a guy like Oliver Kylington fills that need too. The money balances out pretty well. The positional need, the value of the players, I guess you could say it's a little bit more aligned than some of the other trade proposals that we have seen with older veteran guys and draft picks and everything. These are 2 relatively young NHL players drafted 1 year apart, one of whom was rewarded after a very good rookie season playing with Chris Tanev, the other of whom has had an incredible amount of ups and downs and leaving the Oilers and coming back and going over to the AHL and not being good and then making the NHL and not scoring but still being good at the same time. It's been a very interesting path for both of these players, but do you see a trade actually making sense? Talk to me in the comments if you're a Flames fan. What are your opinions, thoughts, and projections for a guy like Oliver Kylington playing on the left side of your blue line? And if you're an Oilers fan, what are your thoughts about Puljujarvi and whether or not this idea would work? Kylington for Jesse. Talk to me in the comments, all your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.